Super Soul Sisters, yet an amazing episode. My name is Rowena Kajumba, and I must say my colleague Sharon did a very great job last week, you know, hosting a very amazing person as well. We always bring you amazing, amazing women, and I do appreciate her for being here and making sure Super Soul Sister runs. But also, I am glad I'm back and I'm able to continue with you and have this conversation. Today, our Super Soul Sister is someone that I personally have had interest in because I have seen her work not so far back, where she's been focusing on women entrepreneurs. Now, someone might say, feminist talk. It's okay. It's okay. But with me this particular night is Dr. Tamale, Joyce Tamale, and Namirimu is also your name. But of course, you know, along the way, we drop a couple of names. They're there, silent, but, you know, we drop them. So, and of course, she is a social entrepreneur. She's been into the drive for social entrepreneurship, and she is the CEO of Capital Solutions. Now, there's so many other things she's part of. She's a board member. She's you know, she has a whole number of things that she's a part of. And I must say, we love to bring you women like this on Super Soul Sister. You're very welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yes, I'm glad you are a Super Soul Sister tonight. You're very welcome, Doctor.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes.
It's a great honor for me to be here.
Yes.
And also relaxing that we are going to talk about a story.
Yes.
And I've never thought about my story. So having me here is a great opportunity to tell the women out there about who I am and the journey has been.
What the journey has been. Yes, that is very true. So, Dr. Joyce, people know you as Dr. Joyce Tamale. Of course, we know we made it clear that she's also, if you want, you can say her full name. Dr. Joyce Namiremu Tamale, you know. But who is Joyce? Before we add the Dr. Joyce, before we add all these other titles that come with along the way.
Thank you very much, Rowena, for having me.
Yes.
It's a great honor to always talk about women empowerment because I've also come from afar. I was born in Masaka, in a village called Chabogo, Nkoni, just next to the Kabaka Palace. That's where I was born, to Mr. and Mrs. Senyonga, both alive, and I thank God for them. Joyce Namirimo is the name majority of the people knew me from childhood, and I was born in the mid-70s. And so I grew up to 2 years, and I was fortunate, or I don't know, my mom and dad chose to give me a very close friend of theirs, a lady who grew me up in Masaka town. So I didn't grow up with my siblings. I grew up with her as a special child. She loved me so dearly. May her soul rest in eternal peace.
Oh, dear.
So she took care of me and loved me deeply. So I think the love I got from my childhood is what gave me the confidence that I had.
You had extra love.
I had extra love. I would always eat fish and the head.
That's the best part.
I know. And that's what she gave me. She would always say, that piece is for Joyce. And I was a little girl, tiny girl.
How did you maneuver with all that?
I know. And she would always say, that head is for Joyce. So she would always make sure that I hid the head. And possibly, as I grew up, people mentioned that people who ate fish are clever. So I thank God that for that childhood love that I got.
You mentioned you have siblings, right?
Yeah.
So how many were you, or are you? Depending
you know, African families, we are many. We were 9, and I was the second last. And so because I used to visit, my mom used to come and visit us, and I would go for the holidays, but I belonged to the other home, you know, with my mom in town. She was a businesswoman. I saw her growing up, you know, doing business. And then my mom actually was called Mama Joyce, my biological mom. So that connected us every time. She would come to say, oh, Mama Joyce. So I would feel I was a special child in a way.
Yes, because they used your name.
My name. So I had 4 sisters and then 5 brothers. And my elder sister, Jane, may her soul rest in peace, loved me so deeply. She nurtured me in a way that was so special that when I completed my high school, she was literally there to baby me. as into the world, you know.
Yes.
So my primary school, I went in Masaka in a primary school called Chitovu. Chitovu is a Catholic school where there's St. Henry's College, but the primary school. And then I went for my secondary school. My primary was day school, purely, up to primary 7. Then I did secondary school in a place called St. Teresa Girls, Bwanda. It's a convent school in Bwanda. And then I went to Gayaza High School to do my high school. And
so going back quickly, because I want people to understand what this was really like. So you grew up with someone else, but you still got the opportunity to come home and see your mom and dad.
they had a special bond. She was barren.
Oh dear.
And she was wealthy and a very close friend to my mom and dad. And I think along the way she talked to them and said,
Give me one.
I would like to have your daughter,
yes,
you know, when you get a daughter, because I followed 2 boys. And because I was the second
So
last.
it's 2 boys, 2 girls from your mom?
My mom, we were 3 girls
Okay.
and 3 boys.
Okay.
Yeah, my dad had 3 other kids.
Okay.
So that's 9. And so I was the second last with my mom. And I think when she had the 2 boys, and then after that she had me,
girl,
and I was a
yes, that
replica of her. Like I think I had everything of her, and she took care of me. And
So when did you find out that this is my more like foster mom, if I could
I
use
think I was
borrow this
about
word?
8 years.
Because the whole time you thought this is my mom.
Yeah, because the way she loved me, we would sleep in the same bed. She would always guard me because she had so many people in her house because she was a businesswoman.
Yes.
But I had a very special treat all the time, and I felt so special. And one time, one of the maids, I think I felt so powerful, and she hit me on the head and said, you know what, you don't feel so good, this is not your mom. And I said, what? So when I ran to her and said, she said, you're not my mom. She was so hurt. She was so hurt. Because every time my mom would come, I would say special woman in the house, and she would always be around me.
Like an auntie of sorts.
Like an aunt of sorts.
But too nice.
But too nice, but not too. Yeah, so that was an interesting way. So then eventually I started visiting my family, and I would always be with them. And, you know, fun enough, whenever I would go back to the boarding school, my dad would always come back. We put things in the car, and this mom of mine would go with me for all the years. And my dad would always be like a driver in the car, sit and watch us go into the office, and then, you know.
Wow,
interesting.
They let her actually
let her
you.
be.
They didn't interfere as much. Okay, maybe in the back there, but
I think so. But he would always be there when I'm going back to school. He would always take us, and my mom would take over.
Okay.
And
So now primary school was day.
primary school was different.
How near was school to home?
We were staying in a place called Nyendo. It's a trading center in Masaka. And then the distance was about less than a mile.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was a road which was so smooth that there was protection along the way. So we'd walk to school with my colleagues in the same. We used
Class,
to stay.
yes.
We used to stay in a. I don't know what we call it, like.
Same neighborhood.
Yes, same
You
neighborhood.
collect yourselves
yeah,
and walk.
we would walk like 3 of us, and it was so much fun. And one time I remember in our primary 5, we went to a swimming pond in St. Henry's College, and remember it's a boys' school. So we were there swimming as girls, and then we saw a whole fleet of boys coming towards us. We got our clothes and took off, and you know, it was so funny. We ran, and by the time we connected back was 5 minutes later. Each one was, are you okay? Are you okay? You know. And I think from childhood, we had conversations about girls. And girls in that neighborhood would always meet, talk about life, and ask each other, where would you want to be in secondary school? At that time, there were some very good girls' secondary schools, like Gayaza High School, Nabisunsa, Namagunga, Nabingo. Those were the schools. So some of my colleagues, you know, went to Nabisunsa, others to Nabingo, and in my heart I said I would have to go to Gayaza High School, even when I was a Catholic, you know, because it was for
I was going to
Protestants.
say you must be Catholic.
I know. Yeah.
So then you go to high school.
St. Teresa, yes, St. Teresa.
When was
Bwanda,
this?
Staunch. That was 1989, and it was staunch Catholic, rosary, very well groomed and walking like straight, you know, in nunnery schools. So when I finished, I realized while I was in secondary school, I was extremely good with mathematics.
Wow.
It's like I would wake up and hit 90s, and everybody in the school knew me as a math girl.
Yes.
So the headmistress loved me deeply, and I struggled with history. But because she liked me, she would always invite me, like, that bright girl. I would always go to her house to have breakfast, and she would always ask me questions. Namirimo, she used to call me Namirimo. Namirimo, you're good with math. How can you catch up with history? Because that was her class.
Yes.
And so she wanted me to still top in history. I struggled. So I said, because she trusted me, I had to read extra. So apparently, I hit it so well. And I got a very fantastic first
That is for
grade.
O level, though?
For O level.
Okay. And what was that like for you coming from day school, being pampered?
Well, I think senior one, as I've told you, I was a little girl. I was tiny in a way. So in my tininess, I got attention. Attention, and my attention went into reading. So I was a little bit competitive. I wanted to top the class.
Yes.
So in the first the first time I was number 3. And you know those days they would read the top 3. And I was so proud to be called number 3, to come in front and receive my report card.
Yes.
And in the dormitory, I struggled to fit in because some of the girls had been in boarding school, so they knew how to wash and struggle, you know. I struggled with fitting in, and over the weekend we had to wash. However, we also had to fetch water.
Far from
Yes,
the
somewhere
dormitory.
far in the pond. There was no water in the school that we could use. So we would always organize ourselves and say, guys, are we ready to fetch water?
Yeah, I mean, you could not take that journey alone.
Exactly.
It's a whole journey.
So we would go, and it was fun collecting water in the pond, carrying it on ourselves, and then bringing it. And then
you carried it like...
Exactly. We would carry, and it was so heavy. Then we come back and wash, and then you need to monitor your clothes so that they don't disappear.
Yes.
Exactly. And I was fortunate. In senior 2, there was a lady coming from my village.
Oh, nice.
And she was my auntie's daughter. And she all of us said, oh, mama wangewali, you know, like that.
Yes.
And since then, she would make sure I have breakfast, I have tea, she would take care of my clothes. I am telling you, I broke through because of her. I loved my secondary school because I was made a prefect as well.
Oh, nice.
And I
in
was,
O level?
Yes, in O level. I was a prefect.
Interesting.
And, you know, I have always been a very straight person and,
Yes.
you know, to the point.
Yeah.
So as a prefect of education, I focused on making sure that I create debates. We never had debates in school.
Yes.
So I introduced debates. We had student teachers from some Nkozi Teachers College. There used to be something like that. And we were able to talk about science, talk about mathematics. So for me, that gave me a lot of self-confidence because it taught me to stand in front of many people and talk about issues.
Yes.
But by the time we completed the second, because I became a prefect in senior 3, by the time we completed, I was firm in my skin, and then, yeah. It went
Interesting.
so well.
And clearly I can see your leadership skills coming through there, which is something that I think most people may not realize in the beginning, but leadership sort of looks for you. Okay, so now, did you go back to the same school in O level, or you moved on?
No, I moved
at,
on.
A level.
O level, I was very clear I wanted to move on, so...
Oh yes, Gayaza.
Yes, I put Gayaza as my first choice, and because I did so well,
Yes.
there was not even any way of lobbying or anything. I just received an email that yes, you've been, you know, you're coming to senior 5, and the course I wanted is what I was given. So it was just a
what
walk
was
through.
that? What?
Meg French.
Meg French.
Meg
Nice.
French. So yeah, I joined Gayaza High School, different culture. In the first term, I used to do my cross very well going to chapel. And then some of the girls would look at me, you know, like
okay.
hello, Joyce, you know. So eventually I stopped my cross, but it was so heavy on me to stop
you're
doing
used
the cross.
to it.
I was
First of all,
used to
you're
my cross.
Catholic.
Exactly. Then I enjoyed the culture change, the culture shock. But the most interesting thing that I enjoyed was Gayaza High School has a lot of respect for HSC students because we put on a different uniform, you have a room to yourself. So it was generally a very good touch into my change of life. Yes.
Felt like
Then we're also sitting on the dining, the HSC students would sit like on top and the rest would be there. You're supposed to eat little. Guys and girls, they serve little, you know, not too much, like with my portion beans. So I was into a culture shock.
yes.
No peeling, because before we used to peel and prepare our food. In Gaza, we never used to peel. And it was an amazing experience that I went through. And then also in Gaza, because I loved being able to serve, there was a call for joining Gaza choir.
Oh, interesting.
And so, yeah, we put in. And Miss Hobday invited us to her house.
And you were saying you don't have any arts in your blood.
I know. But something told me, go and compete. So I had these girls who were in Gaza in O level. They were like, yes, we're going to try it. And I quietly walked in. I didn't know which tone I had, but I practiced a certain song. And then Miss Hobday said, you know, take the stage. Some of the girls went on stage and one of them sang and she came out and said, my voice was bad. So,
you
all
started
this
shaking.
I said, I cleaned nicely, I walked there, and I took over the floor. When I sang, Miss Hobday just kept shaking her head. And actually she said, I want Joyce in my choir. She said she has second soprano. I was so shocked. I said,
You didn't even know what you were
I
saying.
didn't know, because I thought I was alto, I was first soprano.
Yes.
And she said she has one of the best second soprano.
Sopranos, yes.
So I joined the choir, so it was all nice and smooth in Gayaza. So I loved the space, I loved the connection with the girls. And my math came top in Gayaza.
Yes.
Because we had a very old teacher. She was in her late 70s,
Yeah.
so her patience levels were low when she was teaching us pure mathematics. When I listened to Miss Maholand, I listened carefully and followed her and got her message.
Yes.
When the class would end, I would follow her in her house and say, Miss Maho, and she was so impatient.
Yeah.
What do you want? And said, I'm here to ask, what did you mean by X, dy, and so on? And she would sit and take me through.
Oh, wow.
That was it. And when we sat our mock exams, I got 85, which was a
Nice.
D1. The girl who was doing a PCM got 56.
Oh,
And
that's a huge...
that was a huge turnaround for me. Girls started flocking my room. Teach us something, teach us something. And these were girls from, very powerful backgrounds, and they really literally looked like they knew it all. So for me, that was the turning point. And you see, once you win once, you definitely never want to lose it.
Oh, that is
So
very
I
true.
think in my Meg French class, I started reading even harder, geography and so on. My mind was like, Joyce, you must get AAA. Now, that was my game.
Yes. Did you become a prefect as well?
No, I was a dormitory leader.
That's still
I was
something.
in Kennedy,
That
yes, as a dormitory leader.
That is still something.
Yeah.
So with all of these things, did you do any other things as well?
In Gayaza? Well, yes, I did. We were acting. So from the Gayaza choir, then we had an acting class. So I was acting a bit as a man.
Wow.
I found myself on the stage for Easter. Yeah, so I did that, and it was very exciting. A bit of connection with girls, and I did volleyball. I played in the volleyball competition. We went and came and we played with Macquarie College, with Natisusa girls.
Yes.
I grew tall. I grew tall at some point, and then I was able
Not
to
the
qualify.
tiny girl.
Yes, tiny girl.
And
By
amidst all that, you're like, I need to get a AAA.
I need to get a AAA. Of course, I missed by. I got AAB, but that was quite good because looking at where I was coming from into, I would call a very good girls' school. It was a very big move for me. So yeah, then I joined Macquarie University.
So anything in particular you remember in your younger days, probably Gayaza or O-level, that you sit back and you're like, was I the one? Like, how did I even? Something that maybe you look back and laugh.
I guess, yes, calm and collected. That's me. I'm so self-controlled.
Yes.
It's very difficult for me to go overboard. But I remember one of my friends that I grew up with, she met me at the university.
Yes.
I dared guild president. And I stood. And she asked me, Joyce, how? Why? Gaza girls don't do a lot of guild.
Yeah.
But something in me just said, go for it. Go for it as treasurer guild. So I went, campaigned, we were in Mary Stewart, and it was very late in the night. All my friends escorted me. I don't know where I was coming from. And I found myself on the stage, competing with some boy. And what made me go on the stage? BCom. I said, I'm a woman. I have BCom. I can stand. Whoever is there, I will beat them. So we started the campaign, we started the conversation. Then the boys started shouting, Malaya, Africa, Malaya, Africa. You know, I wasn't shaken. I went on, competed, said, this is what I'm going to bring on the table. I'm a BCom student. I'm doing accounting. I'm a woman, and I have it all. Who else can keep the guild money apart from me?
Yeah.
Little did I know I had shot it on the head. Apparently, everybody, I got very good votes. The boys from Lumumba Hall, from
The same boys
Livingstone.
who are calling you names.
I know. They would call you Malaya because Malaya is for Africa Hall. They would call any girl who was in Africa Hall. So yes, I got the vote, and midnight we were chanting back to Africa Hall, shouting, yeah, our treasurer, you know.
Yes.
Very nice. So
was good.
yeah, so my leadership at that time challenged me and said, wow, if you can make it to guild and, you know.
And this is your year one?
No, year two.
Year two.
Year
Okay,
two.
okay.
So I did the guild year 2 and 1. So we served
Yes.
in our guild, and we did it very well. We moved, and they were able to, you know, serve that whole year. And but I remember before the guild, we were supposed to do Chankwanzi. There was a Chankwanzi stint for 2 months. And one of the things I remember, I registered.
Interesting. So you dare yourself, basically.
I dared myself to go to Chankwanzi, and we were there for 2 months.
Yes.
There were not so many guys or girls, but me, the bold Joyce, I was there. What did this do to me? I can tell you the 2 months I spent in Chankwanzi, I've never been the same. Because I packed my nice lingerie, I did my nice braids.
You didn't know what was going to happen.
I didn't know. Me, I thought we were going for a senior 6 something, somewhere
Yes.
where we were going to have
You
fun.
know, yes.
And the night we arrived, it was shocking. We were put in Batun, some clusters of us. And when we were there, we were told, you'll wake up at 6 a.m. As soon as a Afande hits your dormitory, you're going to run. I didn't know we were going to run villages.
We thought it was like simple.
Chankwanzi was something else. The story went on and on. One evening we were told one of the big boss is coming to visit you. And we were about 500 young people.
And you'd all survived all those days.
I never fell sick a single day. So they told us, put on your best. Somebody's coming to visit. I honestly took on my best outfit because I said, now it's time. I was the assistant Ikoi. They used to call them Ikoi. I was the assistant. There was a boy leading. I was the assistant. So we had to stand in the front, put on a nice dress. And I thought it's time for us to exhibit what we've been doing.
Exactly.
Around 7 p.m., I saw people moving with jerry cans of water. I didn't know where they were going. They were pouring water. And one by one of us had to roll in that mud. Yeah.
After putting on your best, eh?
I first didn't recover for the first 30 minutes.
I can imagine.
I thought I was dying. The mud, the rolling was heavy. But it was a lesson to tell us the life is not straight.
Yes.
That's one thing I learned. So after we rolled in the mud, they asked us to come back and line up. And people were shouting, my hair. It was nothing to do with that. We had to fetch water.
Oh my goodness.
Showered, and they took us for campfire to sing these chanting songs. And for me, that was it.
Honestly, I must say, that was something. You did well. I don't think I would ever survive.
By the way, my resilience was built at that time.
Yeah.
I was so used to being helped.
And at that point, you're like, I cannot be the one that is pulling out.
Nah, I wasn't about
I cannot be the one that...
So I completed the 2 months and graduated.
Oh, wow.
I actually shoot. They took us on a shooting something, and an Afande was standing behind you, and you aim and shoot.
Nice.
I did it.
Nice.
I did it.
That is nice. By the way, I had to clarify. She's not doctor as in medical doctor.
No, I'm not. I'm a PhD.
Hey, she has gone to school, eh? Not jokes. Real quick reminder, though, I must say that we are here at this amazing space that is given to us by Daughters Exclusive, Ginger Road here at Spear House. And you know, along the way, you can see it. Amazing furniture, amazing furniture. And I must say, they are always giving us their time and space. And we'll be back quickly and continue with Dr. Joyce Tamale, and to come back and we'll talk a whole lot more. Yes, you're still watching Super Soul Sisters this particular night with our Super Soul sister, Dr. Joyce Tamale. Now, a quick reminder, you can find us on our different social media platforms. You'll see them on the screen, definitely. And, of course, on Twitter, you'll find us there at Super Soul. And of course, Super Soul Sisters, in this case, the S, yeah? The S is like a 3, so you look out for that. And on YouTube, we are Super Soul Sisters UG. And on TikTok, we're there as well, at Super Soul Sisters. Now, remember, the S, yeah, is more like a 3 if you look at it, just so you don't get lost. And on Instagram, it is super_soul_sisters. And of course, you'll be able to give us a comments, give us your feedback, and please be part of this. If you know amazing women that you would probably wish for us to have here on this program. Like I mentioned, this program is meant to have different stories and journeys of women. You know, some of them start out sad, but the fact that people persevere, the resilience in its own, is a positive story. For me, that is success. So now we're at a point where you're university, your Treasurer Guild, you've already gone through your experience of Chankwanzi, which I must say I have no idea if I could ever. But, and then you go through and you do quite well. What's your the next step from there?
We enjoyed university. First of all, we were put in Africa Hall.
Yes.
We were 4 of us, 3 of us from Gayaza, so we knew each other, and 1
nice. That's a
person
good start, yes.
from Namagunga. So in our first year BCom, all of us were doing BCom, so we would walk together from Africa Hall to the BCom faculty and back. Now, the biggest challenge that we faced, having been all my life in girls' schools, we did not have so much exposure with the boys, so we didn't know how they behave. And somehow, because we're in a good space where we came from, we had many people wanted to be our friends. Yeah. So we struggled with relating and feeling comfortable with the boys, because we always wanted to be in our cocoon for girls.
Yes.
So breaking through to get male friends and so on and so forth was not easy for first year, because we would literally walk like kids in the same, in the same group to the dorm, to the what, and back and forth, sit together. So we had to find a way of loosening up. We discovered that we all liked dancing.
Yes.
So we said, how do we do it? But I think the independence had started way back. So all of us figured out and said, you know what? There's always dancing at Anjenois. So we could try Saturday. It's nice. And then we would ask us, so how do we do it?
Yes.
So one of us told us, you know what, we'll just get a cab from Wandegeya. How much? 3K. So each one of us will bring 1K, already money on the table.
Yes.
So when we go, we'll just take 2 sodas. One at the start,
one
towards the end. So how much would that be? Put it on the table. Yeah. Then before we go, we need to eat a snack and feel good, in one day.
Of course, now you're basically planning your whole night.
The whole night. So we would count. Then what do we put on? Black. Black is always good. So we all had to get a little nice black dress. Yes. And yes, we are done.
And just go for the
night. That night, the first day we went, and was for me a breakthrough, because we were all like wild cats, happy to see ourselves out.
Yes.
So we got our cab. We went to Wandegeya, took our takeaway, finished. All of us independent, like channeling our money out and taking care of ourselves in a nice way. Went to the cab. How much? 3K. Sure. Paid. How much? 3K each. We paid. Like each of us had a 12,000
budget. Yes.
Entered 1 soda, cold one. Start with it. We loved Lingala. We would be on the start. Finished. And then one of us was the timekeeper. Around 2 guys.
We need to go, yes.
And we would always mobilize ourselves, then out all together, and then go back to the dormitory. So it was fun. We would dance once a time.
And just to clarify for most younger people now, when she says 3,000, it is not your 3,000 of today.
It was
the 3,000 today
money.
can't even do a lot in transportation, but especially now, post-COVID. But That must have been fun to know that you're going to, loosen up a
Yeah.
little and then prepare
Once a term, we would always do it once. We were so strict with ourselves. One term we organized and we go dancing.
Oh my
So we had
goodness.
so much fun. And then there was something called Thank God It's Friday.
Yes.
It was in Wandegeya by some chapel. They would arrange a night where we would see a movie, a Christian movie, and then we eat popcorn, and it wasn't for paid for. So
Nice.
it was a
That is good
space
thought
for the uni.
yeah.
A Friday, Thank God It's Friday. So we would literally prepare.
Yes.
We would go watch a Christian movie. There was a debate. Then we eat popcorn. So that was our outing as well for Fridays. And then we would go home every Sunday, and we would spend time at our different homes, come back in the evening and prepare for the week. So we literally enjoyed. End of year 3, we said, you know what, we finished. That's the only time we mufad. Something called mufa, like you start the university when everybody has gone.
Yes.
So yeah, we stayed for the mufa for a week because we're like, you know what, this is our last term. What do we do? So we remained, we enjoyed the room, we would go out and walk through town. Then we joined a network of selling certain things. So we got Sheraton and they introduced us to selling, discovering yourselves going to the field.
Oh my goodness.
And so the week ended and we had to go back home. But remember, the energized person in me, throughout university, all my holidays, like the long holidays of 3 months, I would always get a gig. The first gig was miraculously got with a company called Chagalani Coffee. They used to have offices at Chiso's house. Yes. And I walked in there confidently and asked for somebody. One of the girls in Gaza said her dad used to work in Chagalani Coffee. So it stuck in my mind. And I remember the dad's name. So I walked. The guy used to have so many people waiting. I was in the queue, humbly waiting in a nice black dotted dress. So he was called Mr. Mugambwa. Yes. Mr. Mugambwa comes in and says, hello, then he enters. And it was cute. Did you have an appointment? I'm like, yes. I studied with his daughter. That was me. Yeah. So time came when someone took a cheat. He said, oh, where is she? Joyce, come in. And he invited me in. Nice. And I told him, Mr. Mugambwa, I finished my first year. I do BCom accounting. I want something to do in the holiday. He told me, come tomorrow at 8 a.m.
Wow.
As I was walking back home, we used to say in Kawempe, my soul was singing. My soul was singing and doing this, saying, wow, Reached home, my elder sister came back. I told her, you know what, tomorrow I have an appointment. Yes. 7:45, I was at Chiso's house waiting for Mr. Mugambwa.
Wow.
He walks in and then says, Joyce, oh, you're here. Namirimo, he used to like calling me Namirimo. Namirimo, you're here. I said, yes, sir. He says, okay, I want you to meet Andrew Falconer. He's our new operations manager. He's going to take over the Masaka region. It was coffee, and coffee was booming. And you're going to be the accounts clerk. I was like, pardon me? Yes, you're starting tomorrow. I was like, wow, how much? He told me 300,000 at the uni. I was like, wow, that is good money. So yeah, I started, and year 2, I did the same. They gave me, I did so well, they took me to Bugolobi head office.
Oh, you were still with the same?
Yes, when I finished, went back to my year 2. When I finished year 2, my heart said, you're not going to grass. Remember Chiagalani, go back. Yes. I went back, and that time they put me at Bugolobi, and they increased my salary. I was still an accounts clerk. So literally, I never struggled with pocket money.
That is a good...
I'm telling you, I had pocket money. They even put money in NSSF, which I picked eventually. So it was a nice ride of working a bit and also being at the university.
Yeah. Interesting. So now after university, you continued with them? Or you started applying and looking out for
I went back.
You went back?
I went back and told them, I am done with school. Can I get a job? And Mr. Mugambwa said, Joyce, you know Andrew, go and talk to Andrew. He's now our operations manager at Bugolobi. I said, no problem. So I went and talked to Andrew. He was so happy to have me. I said, Joyce, come and start tomorrow as stocks controller or something. I went.
But all of this because you actually performed while you were with
Trust me. Put me on a desk. You will not regret. So I would always make sure my boss is happy.
Yes.
That was my agenda. There was so much cash to be touched. organized.
Yes.
And so I would always make my cash report, hand it over to my boss, and everything was, and he would do surprise cash counts. Oh. Everything was always on point.
How long again after university?
With
How many
Kyagulanyi
more
Coffee,
years?
I worked for 2 years, and my heart started searching and said, you know, 2 years.
I need to do something more.
I need to do something more. I had met a man friend.
While after university
after
or
uni,
before?
after uni,
Oh,
when I
okay.
was working
Clearly,
at
you were
Kyagulanyi
very
Coffee.
principled. Eh?
I know. So I met him, and yeah, I was starting to consider. I said, you know, Kyagulanyi Coffee, there's nothing much for me to grow. I need to consider. And for something like social sector started hitting me. Like, why don't you try the NGO sector? So I just got a newspaper, New Vision, and I spotted a job with Save the Children Denmark. At that time it was called Red Barnet. And I applied. Thankfully, I got the job.
Wow.
It was January, I got the job. So I moved in and worked in there January, worked with them.
Were you doing similar kind of work here, or it totally changed?
Accounting. I was going to be the accounts assistant, and you will also do procurement, something I had never done. So I had to learn on the job. I had a finance manager, I had an accountant, then myself. And 1 year later, I became the full accountant.
Nice.
Oh, it was so nice. And I started doing my SCCA because, you know, after BCom, I said...
While at
Save the Children.
Save the Children now.
Yes. I registered for SCCA because that is the professional accounting body global, where I felt I would be respected with my professional work, and it was quite pricey.
What was a wise move? Yes.
So I registered and started learning in the evening. But in the same year, 2000, I was introduced. I introduced my spouse to my parents. So I moved into marriage now. So juggling the marriage, the work, the reading was quite heavy.
So while you're back at SCCA now, you've been promoted. You're now accountant.
Yeah.
Yes. Then you decide, okay, I think, or he decides, whatever, both of you, you decide, I think we should take on this step.
Yeah.
Wasn't that a bit worrying for you to think about how you're going to deal with all of these demands at a go?
No. Interestingly, as I told you, I had an elder sister. I had no clue how I was going to juggle with marriage because I had no clue what it was.
What it was, yes.
But she was there for me, and she would literally be with me every evening. She knew how to manage with him, how you... Everything, it was her,
basically.
literally.
And it requires patience as well.
Every girl needs a person like that. My husband would always pick me for SCCA. He would come and wait at MAT.
Oh, that's very supportive.
He was so supportive.
It's very
so he would always
supportive.
be in the car waiting. When I finished my class at 10 p.m., we would drive home together. So it was so supportive.
Yes. Oh,
and I remember I actually was the best, and I got an award in the accounting paper, accounting report, financial reporting.
Wow.
I know, I don't even know how I did it, but it came through, and I was like, wow. And I think I am a mover. 3 years I was bored with Save the Children. To tell the truth, I was bored. So
You're
I
like,
started,
I need a new
thing.
project,
I started
a new
looking
venture.
in the boxes somewhere. What is happening there?
Yes.
And I had finished my certificate of SCCA. And I said, now I think I can be a manager.
Exactly. I mean, what's the...
Yes, so that's how I moved into the manager role. I applied for a regional job to be a finance and admin manager. And
Still at Save the Children?
No, another organization called the Eastern African Sub-Regional Support Initiative for Advancement of Women, ARC. And that's when my woman activism started.
Came through, yes.
Because they were doing the Beijing platforms for action, the likes of Honorable Winnie Byanyima, the likes of Matembe, they were really in the forefront. So I would attend meetings and I would watch these women with gas, and I was like, wow, I want to be in that space. So I started putting on bitenge because they would always put on nice bitenges. And so I said, design for me a kitenge, and that's how I moved.
My producer will agree. I think one of these days, we've got so many of our Super Soul sisters say the same exact thing.
Really?
Then I would see maybe Winnie Byanyima in a kitenge, and I started dressing. You're like, I don't know the word person that I say that. We're going to make a quick clip of that one, I think, so that they know what kind of influence. And that's the thing. So you started putting on bitenges as well.
I started my nice bitenge. And you know, when you put it on and you're in those spaces for the women, you feel big.
Yeah.
This is the way you feel. And then you start talking the Beijing language.
Yeah.
And then you hear sisters cheering you on. And you're like, oh, around 27 years when I was a manager, finance, somebody identifies me and says, I think Joyce...
Wait, you were how old?
27.
Oh, wow. Nice.
And somebody says, I think Joyce can be a good board member. I had no clue what it means to be on a board
member. But it sounded cool.
I know, it sounded cool. And this is a Pan-African organization.
Wow.
And I said, why not? And she put me on a board as a treasurer because I had my finance background. And we had a meeting in London, meeting all these powerful women in a boardroom. And they had shawls around them.
There's always that classy look.
That classy look around them with shawls. I didn't come with a shawl. I was
like next time.
How do I feel big in this room, you know? So I was navigating the room and saying, how do I fit in? Something told me, no, you need to be you. You have finance, and that's why you're on this table. Now you're going to pick your finance language and put it on the table, and they will listen to you. And along the way, from that board, I learned how boards work. I learned the language in the boardroom versus being an executive because the language is totally different. So as a young woman at 27, I would, in my organization, be attending board meetings, but as a manager. And the board members would talk. So when I became a board member, I learned how to navigate with the board and being a manager. And I became one of the most reliable managers because I know how the games were played.
On both,
what to say when and what not to say.
Very key. So in the middle of you traveling and taking on a new role, you're a mother now.
I'm a mother of a young boy, Keith. Keith actually grew
Did you
up
ever say, oh my goodness, what am I doing? You know?
I was super excited to have Keith. I think as a young woman, I was like, what the hell is this little thing for me? I was so excited. So because I was in a feminist organization, they would allow me to travel with my son, to be with him, and they would always pamper him, or he would come along in the meetings and nobody shouts at him. So I would feel confident and comfortable. I learned that when young women work in spaces, they need to be seen as part of the journey. Even when they get children, let them be, you know.
I mean, it shouldn't stop them. So
the 6 years I worked with ASC were amazing years. They were full of travel, they were full of learning. I wasn't doing finance per se. I was doing program work.
You'd now gotten into more, diverse
spaces. There was this going and talking to the women under the mango trees, and you're talking about issues of women empowerment, domestic violence. I learned a lot of things. I never knew women were battered so deeply, and so they needed somebody to uplift them.
Now, from what I have picked with the conversation with Dr. Joyce, is that so many times things come our way, but how willing are you to take on that challenge? I've not, throughout this conversation, had her say, I hesitated. Every time the opportunity was brought to her, she said, yes, why not? So sometimes maybe we should try the why not?
I hear you.
Yes, sometimes, you never know. So how long were you with, with the organization here?
6 years.
Ooh,
6 years.
That's the longest you've been somewhere. That must have been interesting.
It was interesting. Because in the first year when I served as a finance manager, remember I was young, I was about 26.
Yes.
It was a regional organization, so they had a board meeting in Nairobi. And while they were having a board meeting, in the evening as I was going back home, I received a call from the board chair. And I stopped. And she said, Joyce? I said, yes. You're going to be the acting ED for some time. I said, pardon me? She said, yes, the board has decided.
Wow.
I said, what's happening to the ED? Long story. She stopped. And she said, you can use the company car wherever you want, and so on and so on. I was frozen. I had no clue.
You got some of the best phone calls. Because
I know.
I would assume someone would first tell you, come to my office, then you start shaking. And
so imagine in the morning I had to figure out going to office, meeting these program officers, very, very grounded women, some from Kenya, and call a staff meeting. So what was I going to tell them? That was my question. When I told Mr. Tamale, my husband, about it, he told me, yeah, God gives you opportunities.
Yes.
Go and try and serve. So I sat with them and said, the board has said the executive director's contract is not being renewed, so we need to figure out how we are going to implement the work. Of course, some of the women were not amused, and they said, I told them I'm going to be the acting ED and I need all your support. That's all I said. So there was a big meeting that really put me off my feet in Kigali. We were supposed to invite 100 women from the 8 countries to navigate the Beijing platform for action, and it was being organized by ARC. Remember, we don't have an ED. The board was scouting for an ED, and fortunately they got an ED as we launched in Kigali.
Okay.
So I was there, I organized as finance, organized air tickets, booking the accommodation in Kigali, everything. Of course, I had to put on my Kitengi. I remember I had a pink Kitengi. I wrapped my head. I felt big. I felt,
Yes, of course.
I said, yeah, we can now face these women.
Yeah.
Trust me, the whole room was full of women in Bitenge.
Nice.
All of them like with good weight, and it was an amazing meeting. So the new executive director came on board, Madame Maren, from Kenya. She was so happy and saw me. She kept calling me my sister and so on, my little sister. Yeah.
And it's strange because sometimes people say, when you put women together.
Maren became my real sister because, as I will tell you along the way, we even started Capital Solutions together.
Oh, wow.
May her soul rest in eternal peace.
Oh, dear.
She died of cancer, 2017. But she was a sister. I settled in Uganda, got her a maid she kept for 10 years.
Nice.
And we worked together, we gelled.
So how much longer than when she came on board did you?
She came the same year because I acted for 4 months.
For 4 months,
and then she came over and she moved the organization. So I enrolled for MBA while at ARC, my 3rd year. I did my MBA with a SAMI, and when I did my MBA, my entrepreneurial mind started kicking in.
Nice.
And completed MBA for 2 years. And I had registered Capital Solutions for my MBA thesis. And
so now before it actually comes to life, you were still working
yes,
with
big
SA,
time for 10 years.
But you are preparing yourself for the next big step.
Yes.
What pushed you to want to do something as Joyce, as yourself, to start something on your own?
Interestingly, before I moved in wholly, what inspired me is the depression that was happening in the country around 2009. Most of the NGOs were losing funding, and most of the NGOs were closing. That time, we were looking at organizations that had good grants, but also they were losing money. So when I finished, I said, no, I'm going to do sustainability, financial management for individuals, but also for companies.
Yes.
What can't I do? So along the way, there was another job, and I wanted to figure out whether I could still be a CFO. And there was a job with an organization called Uganda Health Marketing Group.
Yes.
I sat the interview, and they gave me a job as a director of finance.
Nice.
I said, why not try it? Because this is largely USAID-funded organization.
Yes.
Let me try it. So I went in. It was an amazing job. Which
so
I
this
also
is which
did.
year now?
That was 2009 to 2000. I did 5 years as director of finance.
Nice.
And Capital Solutions was running on the side, small time. And
Oh, you already started slowly
doing women finance, women conversations in finance. And as I do well,
Yes.
I competed for the managing director role.
I like your ambition.
And I got it. So I became the MD of that very powerful organization, UHMG, doing great stuff, amazing stuff. I did 5 years still. So with UHMG, we traversed the country, doing behavior change communications, health, and so
So basically, the other job has prepared you for something almost similar, but now you're focusing on health.
In health.
Things like that, yes.
So that's how we did it, and I did it I served UHMG for 10 years.
Nice.
And in 2018, I decided to move on and do my thing.
Capital Solutions aside to grow slowly.
Solutions. So that is when the heart of social entrepreneurship deeply penetrated. It penetrated to a level where I did a research for Uganda. There was no other research. When I did that research, I interfaced many, many social entrepreneurs out there. I never knew there were so many people doing great stuff out there. But remember, at the center of this, I was the board chair for Forum for Women in Democracy, as the chairperson of the board, and moving this agenda on women in leadership, training women across the country in leadership and so on. So that agenda kept pushing me. So even when I did social entrepreneurship, I said I will move 80% of the team to be women.
And you'd mentioned earlier that you did partner with your friend. Of course, she turned friend.
Yes.
She came to be the ED turned friend.
Yeah.
So how did she come in then, in the picture?
Yeah. We wanted to retire financially happy.
Yes.
I think you need to start from the end. And starting from being happily retired financially was the conversation.
Yes.
So I started reading about Kiyosaki books.
Yeah.
And I said, but I'm a finance person. I am not going to be retired poor. I don't want my sisters to retire poor. So I went to her office and said, Marin, there's this sale of shares for Safaricom. Are you aware? IPO offer. She told me, no, Joyce, tell me about shares. What do you mean? I told her, Marin, we need to talk about these issues. As an ED, you need to start saving money. You need to buy shares. We need to talk to fellow women here so that we don't die paupers. And I told her, I want to register a company that looks at financial sustainability. And she said, yes, I want to be a shareholder. Put me in, So that's how we registered. And she came on board. And we launched our first corporate women forum in 2014 with DFCU Bank. They sponsored us. Eventually, in 2018, the social entrepreneurship conversation came in.
Now, of course, I must say Capital Solutions has been doing a great job. Personally, I've been following up a bit. Sometimes I've probably sneaked my way in and listened to some of your meetings.
Thank you.
And very helpful, by the way, very helpful. You see, when we talk about women and empowerment, some people may think it's just talk, talking about it. But telling them, hey, you can work, you can start a business, you can get yourself informed or learned or educated. It is very key, and I must say I appreciate you. I appreciate you for that. Now, anything to say about Capital Solutions as we wind up here? Because I see my producer and him telling me, please.
All right. Because I'm a mother of boys, in 2013 I started what we call Boys to Men program, where I felt as soul sisters or women out there, you're going to prepare young women so well, and then they land on these men who will antagonize them.
Who don't understand what an empowered woman.
So we started that conversation. My boys are part of the Boys to Men, and so far we have 200 young men, alumni who have gone through our conversations, preparing them to be good men, feminist men, if possible.
Let's not use the word feminist. There are people who are going to come at us for that.
And so Capital Solutions looks at both men and women. You realize that our social entrepreneurs are men, and actually we had men first before the women started joining in. So I'm seeing men doing great work and making impact. So that is the agenda we are pushing, and on 5th of October, we are going to have a very fantastic symposium where we'll have these social entrepreneurs coming on board, investors and academicians, talking about
how do people get involved in this symposium?
They will have to register for joining in online, both online and physical, and they can catch us up on our website, www.capitalsolutionsug.com. There's the link for you to register, and we want to see very many young people creating jobs, decent jobs, because the whole agenda is about creating decent jobs, fighting poverty, and supporting as many as possible with our hands, and also giving them what we know.
Indeed. So what are your hobbies?
I love aerobics.
Oh,
yes,
nice.
I do my aerobics from Bogolovi, so 3 days a week. I also learned swimming, so whenever I get an opportunity, I jump in the water and do the swimming, of course, in the shallow end, not the deep. For me, it's about fun in the water. And then I love talking to the young people, especially around business growth. That connects my soul with the people. Traveling, yes, once in a while, it makes me calm down and also learn things and bring them home. Yeah.
Indeed. They say, I don't know how to translate it directly, but something like when you actually move around the world, you have stories to tell.
True.
When you move, you have stories to tell. What drives you? What do you live by as Joyce?
I have too much positive energy. That is number one driver that makes me wake up every day. Positive energy that I would love to see a world where all of us are purposeful. I want to live happy. You cannot live happy when everybody around you is shattered.
Yes.
In fact, for me, that's what drives me. So I keep saying, no, do it for other people so they also get a bit of happiness, then I can be much happier. Yeah.
Thank you so much. She's a transformational leader. She is a social entrepreneur. And of course, with all her experience, and by the way, in the littlest of time possible, because at 27, she's a board member. That's determination. Now, just a reminder, everyone's journey is different. We bring our Super Soul sisters here to share their journeys. Now, I don't want you back at home to think, okay, I'm going to wake up tomorrow. I'm a board member. No, you work hard at it, okay? Let's have the boys and the girls work together, the men and women work together. And that is something I think also here as a show on Super Soul Sisters we should push. Yes, there are challenges, but just like any other world where men live, there's challenges. But how do you persevere and push through as a woman? Thank you so much, Dr. Joyce.
Thank you very much,
Thank
my
you.
dear.
We really appreciate.
Thank you
And
for
of course,
having me.
Dr. Joyce Namirimo Tamale. Most of you may know her as Dr. Joyce Tamale. Same thing, you know. But she's taken on a journey. She's taken us through her journey. I hope you've picked something. Final word to your soul sisters out there.
It is possible. You only need to dress up yourself and get the grit. Grit is what will make us succeed as women because the world will never forgive you if you don't do what you are meant to do in the world.
Indeed.
So I give it to you.
Indeed. But thank you so much also back at home for taking this hour off and join us every day in this comfortable space brought to us by Daughters Exclusive. And I must say from me and the entire team, we do appreciate you. Sharon, thank you for making sure that our people are still glued to the TV. My name is Rowena Kajumba. From me and the team of Super Soul Sisters, have yourselves a good night.
Thank you.